Hey everyone, and welcome back. So doing a video today on my thoughts on the new 4K releases from Shout Studios of some of their Hong Kong lines. So the three that I've been most anticipating are the John Woo ones, and specifically the Better Tomorrow. This is obviously the trilogy box set. Hard Boiled, and of course one of my all-time favorite films, The Killer. Now that I've gotten them in, now up front, I do want to say I've only watched A Better Tomorrow. I've not watched 2 and 3 yet. So any thoughts I have are definitely going to be on just the first film as far as that one goes. And this is, I do want to kind of stress that this is not necessarily a review as much as just sharing my thoughts on these releases and what, you know, may or may not be the case kind of going forward. Now, as far as these films go, I know the moment this deal got announced, I have been so excited because a lot of these films, I must admit, I've been kind of worried about because I don't know how many of them have really been stored properly over the years. I've been kind of worried about them deteriorating and everything, and especially some of the John Woo films, which are my, you know, some of my favorites, especially for these three because, you know, over the years we've had really kind of subpar releases. They really haven't been that great. And I will say probably out of these three specifically, Hard Boiled probably came out a little bit better compared to the other two. And I have to say, I never thought I would see the day where we would actually have these titles in 4K. I mean, I would have been happy even with just like a new Blu-ray release with a proper transfer. I think it's kind of the main thing, is I always wanted a proper transfer because none of the transfers we've ever gotten have been that great. So the fact that we now have them is great in so many levels. Not only do we actually have them where we can watch them, but also the fact that they also now have a sort of digital, you know, a 4K digital archive version as well, which is fantastic. Now that I've gotten in all three, I definitely wanted to share some thoughts, especially since I have actually watched all three of them now. And it's, I have to admit, I am very optimistic about going forward. I really thought that these films, from a transfer standpoint, looked really good, especially once you know kind of going into them what to expect. You know, these films were never going to look like pristine just because of the way they shot, the film stock, all that stuff. But I never would have thought that these films would ever look this good. So needless to say, I am extremely happy with the transfers, the audio on them, and even some of the minor audio imperfections, and believe me, they're very, very minor, have been ones that have been there like as far back as I can remember. I think they're just part of the original soundtrack. You know, it's not anything that any of the restoration did wrong or anything. Again, very, very minor. In fact, unless you even know it, you may not even notice them. Nothing that would take away from any scene or anything like that. And the great thing about this deal is that these movies are also getting released in other countries. So for example, Arrow is handling the releases of these in for the UK. I know Imprint is putting out their versions of it as well, and it's just fantastic. Now I'm almost positive that the transfers themselves are going to be the same out of all of them. I think the only difference actually probably is going to be some of the extras, a couple minor things like that, but mainly, you know, we're all getting the same films and transfers. And I have to, again, I was extremely happy with all three of these. So it gives me a lot of hope with all the films coming out that, yeah, we're going to get some really amazing releases of films that, again, I'm so glad we are getting not just new releases, we're getting 4K releases. The knowledge of they're getting like 4K digital archived as well, just for archival purposes, which, you know, I'm very, very adamant that we do, is because, you know, I mean, again, I want film and everything, but film can deteriorate. Not that digital files can't be deleted and stuff like that. What I mean is just to have that extra archival version of a film in the highest possible quality is something I definitely push for very strongly. Now, of these three films, I will say Hard Boiled is definitely the one that I think has the most solid picture presentation, but that's always been the case with Hard Boiled. It's always kind of fared better than the other ones. But the other ones are not slacking by any means. And I will say, in the case of Better Tomorrow too, I was really surprised by how good that film looked in this restoration. And it was, you know, and I hadn't watched A Better Tomorrow in a long time. All three of these are ones that I used to watch a ton, and to see them now in 4K has been really just absolutely incredible. And to revisit them and just be reminded of how much I love them, and the fact that they have a nice assortment of extras, including older ones, even on the like on the Killer and Hard Boiled, if I remember correctly. They even port over older Criterion commentary tracks, which are not always easy to get on a release that's not Criterion, so really great to see that here. The subtitling I thought was done really well. I did see a couple people online kind of mention in regards to the subtitles for whether or not they're as good as they could be. I must admit, I don't know. Just from a viewing experience, I will say that nothing stood out to me. You know, it might have been like one or two like grammatical errors, but nothing I'm gonna get like upset about. Yeah, I mean, if there are a couple minor translation issues, then obviously, yeah, I mean, hopefully maybe so handle a little bit more carefully going forward. But in my experience, I didn't see, nothing's jumped out at me by any means. Everything kind of seemed to translate very, very well. Even the change of names in The Killer, which I think in the original English dub version and even the early like subtitle versions, like the nicknames that the two characters give each other were always, was it Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck or something? I can't remember offhand, but it was like I never liked that, and not just because of the Disney thing. I don't know, for some reason that just seemed out of place, where in this new version they refer to them each one as Shrimp Head and Little B, which I'm not saying it's better, but it kind of felt it worked a little bit better for me anyway. And as far as the case goes, like, I'm really loving these cases. Like, obviously with A Better Tomorrow, it's a little bit easier because it is all three of them. So it does have this nice kind of outer case with artwork. I actually do like this artwork. And each film is housed in its own case, which I do really, really appreciate. You know, they're not those dreaded sleeves. Like a couple other releases I got recently, they were in those sleeves, and it was just like, oh God, you know, I can't stand those. So luckily these are in their own cases. And in the case also of Hard Boiled and The Killer, just like the Halloween releases from a couple of years ago, again, they got the harder outer box. It slides out and does have each one does come with a very nice booklet with, you know, a bunch of cool stuff in it, and again its own case. And I do love that the inside does have the original one sheet artwork on it. Doesn't have anything on the reverse though, but that's okay, because the one I am most excited about, because it is actually one of my favorite posters of all time, is on The Killer, which has this artwork on the inside, which I love this artwork so much. And as far as any technical issues go, I will say that there was only two things that kind of happened to me, but I think one of them, they were kind of weird, and honestly, I don't think these are necessarily anything that Shout did by any means. For A Better Tomorrow, towards the end of the film, there was a moment where it broke up for a second. Now luckily it didn't stop. It didn't like get out of sync, which also kind of happens sometimes. It just happened for a second, and then it was gone. Kind of sucked it happened towards the end of the film, but it wasn't there when I played it back. So I think that was actually more of my player, because my player can at times be a little sensitive. I think especially sometimes at layer switches on certain discs. So again, I think that was more on my end. The other thing which was weird, which I don't even know how to explain this, and I don't know I think it's on their end and my end, probably. I mean, technically, I guess it is more on my end, but the Blu-ray release for A Better Tomorrow, when I put it in the player in here, which is where I watch most of my movies, it wouldn't play. It would start up, it would kind of start spinning, but before anything would come up on the screen, it would just stop, and it just kept doing that. And I was like, what the heck's going on? Checked the disc, disc's clean, restarted the player and all that, and it still was just kept doing the same thing. And I was like, oh no, do I have a disc that just isn't working? Went and tried it on another Blu-ray player that I have in my bedroom, and it was fine. Like, it started up fine. So again, I don't know what to make of that, because it was weird that the disc wouldn't play at all on the player in here, but it played perfectly fine in that player. So again, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, if you guys who maybe know a little bit more of the technical aspect in that regard, especially when it comes to like different players and stuff, let me know, because like that kind of weirded me out. But because it did play on the other player, I am perfectly willing to accept the fact that that was more on my end only. And in the case of Hard Boiled, I didn't have any problems at all. Played through perfectly. It, again, looked fantastic, sounded great, and did check the Blu-ray and played fine in here. So, you know, just because I want to check out some of the extras and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And same thing with The Killer, which, as of this recording, I did just watch last night, which I waited for the perfect night because, again, it is one of my favorite films of all time, and I was so happy to see it and see it as good, you know, look as good as it does. And yeah, played perfectly fine all the way through. I checked out the Blu-ray, the extra Blu, because it does have 3 discs, and I checked out the Blu-ray that has all the extras on it, perfectly fine, no problem. So yeah, not sure what happened with that Better Tomorrow Blu-ray. Still kind of weird, but I don't know what to make of it. But again, all the other ones played fine. So as someone who has waited a very, very, very long time for new releases of these films, and especially to get them in 4K transferred from their original camera negative, which I don't even know if, I mean, has that even been done before? Or if it did, it sure didn't look like it was coming from the negative. And it just to have them look as good as they do, I have to admit, I'm extremely happy. I can't wait to even see what some of the other companies are going to do. You know, Arrow, Imprint, sure some other companies, maybe even some other areas. Specifically as far as extras go, now I'm not gonna lie, because I do love these films so much, especially The Killer, I will be getting other releases of them. I must admit, especially The Killer. I probably will only get the Arrow releases of the other 2, but The Killer I will most likely get in all 3 of those, and probably any other one. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna do it. It's one of my favorite films. I'm just gonna do it. And now at that point too, yeah, maybe I will compare it if there's anything different as far as like subtitles or something, or compression or anything like that. Although I didn't notice any compression issues. I mean, if there's anything there, I didn't see it. But anyway, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but that's why the subtitle for this channel is Vague Ramblings, because good lord, I gotta ramble on in a very vague way. That's why I also didn't want this to really be a review, more just kind of sharing my thoughts and stuff, and just how happy I am with these and how they turned out, despite the little weird thing with Better Tomorrow, and just how happy I am going forward, not just for future releases of all different kinds of movies, not just John Woo, but all kinds of films. In fact, I did get in the Chinese Ghost Story trilogy set. Haven't been able to watch it yet. Very excited to dive into that. So yeah, I definitely have a lot of hope that going forward for future releases going forward. And again, just so happy that these films are being restored and archived, and especially we can see them. Thank goodness. I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys so much for being members. I hope you are enjoying all the extra content. So that's it for my rambling on all this stuff. Let me know your thoughts if you've gotten these releases, or if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. Having these films in 4K has made me so happy. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.